Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be back at the Ukraine Crisis Media Center. It is a special honor and pleasure for me today to be introducing three senior members of the U.S. Senate who are out here as part of another demonstration of U.S. interest and engagement in Ukraine. We have Senator Warren, Senator Shaheen, who is a very important person to those of us at the State Department because she is the ranking on the Europe subcommittee of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And then finally, Senator Dick Durbin, who almost needs no introduction in Kyiv. He has been a very frequent visitor and is, among many other things, the co-chair of the Senate Ukraine Caucus. So, Senators, thank you for your visit.
Thank you very much. I want to thank our ambassador and all those who work at our embassy for representing the United States so effectively. And they've been great hosts again, as they have been every time that I've visited. The first message to Ukraine is we are in solidarity with Ukraine in terms of rebuilding this nation and protecting it from the invasion of the Russians. We know that the United States shares this feeling with the democratic and civilized nations of Europe and the rest of the world who believe that this invasion was unwarranted, unnecessary, and a painful experience, costing many people their lives and making life miserable for those who live in the region. We stand in solidarity with Ukraine so that they can repel this invader. And we also stand with them when it comes to building this nation. The spirit of Maidan lives on in terms of reform and change, which was the message of Maidan. We see it in the leadership today. President Poroshenko was received warmly when he gave a speech in a joint session of Congress. Prime Minister Yatsenyuk is a frequent visitor and a friend to the United States, and we have watched carefully while they have made real progress in areas such as utility reform, which is essential for Ukraine to shed its responsibility or its yoke of Russian dependency when it came to the future of energy. Real reform when it comes to the banking industry, the financial industry, which is essential to restore global confidence in investment in Ukraine. And progress in good governance. I would say that the jury is still out. The questions are still being asked about real reform when it comes to corruption. We have met and stressed the need to continue this effort so that the United States and the world feels that the government of Ukraine continues to move in the right direction in ridding corruption from this system of government. The first thing that is essential for governance is the confidence of the people. And I believe the people of Ukraine are still looking for modernization and reform when it comes to this issue of corruption. We will continue to work with Ukraine on a military basis to protect its future, but also to encourage it and work with it when it comes to the reform which is necessary and the economic progress which is essential for this country to prosper for many generations to come. I would close by saying there's a lot of division and difference in Washington, D.C. on very many issues. When it comes to the issue of Ukraine, there is unity between Democrats and Republicans, the administration and Congress. As chairman of the Ukraine Caucus in the Senate with Republican Senator from Ohio, we continue to fight for that bipartisan effort so that Ukraine knows that it has a friend in the United States. It's my honor to represent the ranking member of the European Subcommittee of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire.
Thank you very much. We are pleased to be here in Ukraine. This is my first visit to support all of you in this effort to rebuild your country in a way that makes sure there are opportunities for all Ukrainians. You know, when President Poroshenko came and spoke to the joint session of Congress, one of the lines that he used in his speech was the line, "Live free or die." That is the motto of my home state of New Hampshire. And it was uttered during our Revolutionary War against the British back in the 1700s by a general from New Hampshire who talked about it against the oppression of the British. And so it had real resonance for me to hear him talk about trying to fight off the oppression that Ukraine has experienced. And it is, Americans watched your fight and continue to watch your fight. You are an inspiration to us, and we want to support your efforts to continue to build your country. And we join you in condemning Russia and Vladimir Putin. And as Senator Durbin says, we have bipartisan support in Congress. And as he pointed out, we don't always agree on everything, but there is agreement among both Democrats and Republicans in the United States about the need to support Ukraine as you rebuild your country. Thank you. I'm now pleased to introduce another member of our delegation, Elizabeth Warren, who is from the neighboring state to me in the U.S. of Massachusetts. Senator Warren.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Shaheen. It is a great honor to be here. It is an honor to be here with
Для мене честь бути тут з сенатором Дурбаном, який є керівником групи, що підтримує Україну в Сенаті Сполучених Штатів. Також мені надзвичайно приємно бути тут з пані Дурбин, яка є головою підкомітету з європейських справ. І я приїхала сюди також і для того, щоб ще раз підкреслити важливість реформи правосуддя в цій країні. Готуючись до цієї поїздки, я зустрічалася з експертами, зрадниками. Мені розповіли, наскільки Україна багата різними ресурсами і передумовами, створенням сильної економіки, і яка багата тут культура, наскільки високий рівень грамотності, наскільки освічені люди. Але коли доходить до реформи правосуддя, то це безпосередньо гальмує розвиток економіки. Коли нема верховенства права, коли правосуддя залежне і на нього не можна покластися, то неможливо розвивати економіку. І я вже в політиці більше 20 років. Коли я прийшла перший раз до Сенату, я прийшла із Гарвардської школи права, і я дуже добре.
law and contract law about how independent legal systems can help support thriving economies. So I am here to say that the importance of having legal reform to building an economy for this country cannot be overstated. As Senator Durbin said, it is powerfully important to have the confidence of the people in a legal system, but it is also powerfully important that if you are to have an economy that works, it is one that is supported by an independent legal system. So I recognize that reform is hard, but I also recognize from my time here that the people of Ukraine want reform, that the economy requires reform, and that the United States of America will stand strong with those who fight for reform. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions? Please identify yourself.
Just a moment, please. First, we'll provide you with microphones.
Hi, my name is Ilya Timchenko. I'm from the Kyiv Post. I have two questions. First question is to you, Mr. Durbin and Elizabeth Warren. You come from some of the most corrupt states in the U.S. So I wanted to ask, what are some strategies that you have in maybe from your experience in the U.S. in dealing with corruption, and how you can specifically help it to fix Ukraine's legal structure? And my second question is, will the U.S. keep on helping Ukraine, considering the logging reforms that we have? You know, what point do we, will you wait until where you'll say, no, we're not going to be supporting Ukraine anymore?
Yes, a word in defense of my state. To start with, in the state of Illinois, we have had our share of public corruption. We have responded to it by indicting, prosecuting, and incarcerating those responsible. It is a message that we have no tolerance for public corruption. Human frailty will invite that to occur again, but those who fall prey to it are going to pay a heavy, heavy price. We have incarcerated a series of Illinois governors, which shows our seriousness of purpose when it comes to making certain that we have honest government in our state. Secondly, in terms of the United States, we stand behind Ukraine. We believe they are making an honest, good faith effort toward reform when it comes toward the issue of public corruption. We want them to continue along that path, and we will stand by them and work with them as long as that dedication is very clear.
Thank you. I also wish to defend my home state. We do not identify ourselves, nor do others identify us as a state with a significant corruption problem. But I would say corruption cannot withstand the light of day. And that is corruption at the top and corruption at the bottom. Whether it is public officials in high office who take bribes, or whether it is police officers on the street who extract a toll for people to pass. In any case, it's really about bringing the rule of law to the light of day so that people have confidence in their government, they see their government function. As Senator Durbin says, a willingness to prosecute is a serious part of that. A willingness to fire those who are not public servants, but instead serve only themselves, I think is critically important. But I will say on this, I think that many countries around the world have had to deal with the issue of corruption. And it's time for a best practices approach here, where different approaches to different levels of corruption have been used with some success. In Ukraine, I would suggest it is time to try all measures as vigorously as possible. And that is for two reasons. One is because some of them will be effective. The second is because the government must demonstrate in a very public way that it is committed to rooting out corruption, no matter how painful, no matter how difficult. On the question of support, I am here with two senators who make clear strong support for Ukraine. But support for this government from within the country and from without depends on real progress toward rooting out corruption. Thank you.
I mean, I just want to add one thing, and that is that it's not just about the government, but it's also about the public. And it's about how members of the public deal with corruption. You know, corruption exists everywhere, but if we refuse to tolerate it, then it's going to be hard for it to continue to exist. And I think that, for me, was one of the messages of the Maidan Revolution, is that people in Ukraine got tired of corruption, and you wanted to see it change. And the people of Ukraine, I hope, will continue to push that agenda.
Thank you. We have the next question.
Здравствуйте. Я хочу...
I would like to ask a question in Russian. One. This will be the question. Irena Ross, I would like to express gratitude for your support, for coming here. And first of all, I represent a UN Banker channel. I represent thousands of Ukrainian people who suffered from banking crisis in Ukraine. Thousands of people. We are active. We want to address this issue. We want to remove oligarchs, but we fail to do so. And no one hears us. We know about violations made by oligarchs, by bankers in our country, but we are not allowed to contact the government, the presidential administration. They pretend that we do not exist. Please tell us. We cannot find the way how to fight with the oligarchs. up there, because the agrarian sector, you know, it's the sweetest one in our country, and it's impossible to reach these oligarchs. There are thousands of us, we can do nothing. We have evidence. The prosecutor's office refuses to take them. I have hundreds of letters from prosecutor's office, from Sakvarilidze personally. I support you, absolutely. And the fight oligarchs with the assistance of new prosecutor's office, but we cannot do it. Oligarchy is too strong. Our families are deprived of money. Thousands of people lost their investments and deposits. We know that you support our country, but we need to have some control. The sums of refinancing reach the pockets of oligarchs, and we cannot prove that. We addressed your ambassador. We were received, but we do not know how to address this issue.
Even America has its oligarchs. And what I would say is that in dealing with this challenge, you need brave people who will speak up and step forward. I know this. I saw that in Maidan, and I see it today. We visited Greece before we came here. We were dealing with the refugee crisis. But even while in Greece, we met with leaders who have come up with innovative ideas, a blog or website that is available for people to report if they were solicited for a bribe in Greece, so that it becomes public. Second, whistleblower protection for those in government who will step up and report corruption. Third, an aggressive independent press that will report these stories on an ongoing basis. And finally, and most importantly, a judiciary and prosecutor and judiciary that will enforce these laws. I mean, this has to be our goal in every country on earth. And I don't want you to be discouraged by oligarchs. They're everywhere.
Jeanne, do you want to add anything? I just want to say one more thing. Do not give up. This is a very hard fight. If it were an easy fight, we would have already won. Do not give up. People will listen to you. And it may seem like only a few, but a few, add a few more, and a few more. People know what is right. And if you will get out and you will fight, use the internet, grab every microphone you can, stand on street corners, people will be with you on this. And ultimately, you will make the government work for you, not the reverse.
Thank you very much. We have the next question.
Yes, Voice of America. You just mentioned the unity between Democratic Party and Republican Party in supporting of Ukraine. Just recently, Senate adopted financing for little defensive arms for Ukraine, and everybody is waiting for Obama's veto on this. What are the chances, and when this question could be clarified?
Allow me to clarify this. It is the Defense Authorization Bill. The substance of the bill is not in controversy. By and large, we agree with that substance, and the President does as well. The issue behind this bill is the budget allocation, the total dollar allocation, how certain accounts are being used, the war account known as OCO. So it has nothing to do with the substance of support for the people in Ukraine or the support of Congress for our men and women in the military. It is a budgetary issue which we hope to resolve as quickly as possible. So don't believe the argument that the controversy has anything to do with substance.
Thank you very much. Are there, yes, there are further questions?
Hello, Senators. Welcome to Ukraine. I'm Nikolai Vorobyov. I'm Ukrainian journalist, so I travel back and forth to Washington, D.C. and Kyiv. So I just came back educating people there in D.C. about what's going on here, and the same do here. So I have just two short questions to you. The first is about military budget. Senator Durbin, make you just make some clear, because it says 300 million of military support to Ukraine. So will we get this money next year according to this military budget? And do you think, is it sufficient for us right now? Because in my opinion, it's far from enough to fight like Putin's aggression. And the second question is to all senators, it's about Minsk Memorandum. For now, it's implemented only from Ukrainian side. So we already voted for these amendments to the constitution. But at the same time, the main requirement from that side is total withdrawal of their military forces of Russia from Donbass. So what do you expect, or do you have any B plan for Ukraine, or for the United States policy here, if the Minsk Memorandum wouldn't be implemented by January 1st, or just, I don't know. Thank you very much.
In terms of the $300 million, we are still debating the total budget amount, how much will be included. And the high-end amount of the total budget includes the $300 million for Ukraine, and more, I believe, from other accounts, I might add. It might be increased, right? Yes, it's possible. But it is part of the earlier question. We need to resolve the overall budget number. So it is not a debate about aid to Ukraine. It is a debate about the overall budget number. When it comes to the Minsk agreement, there are certain elements of it which we think are positive at this moment. Any effort towards ceasefire will reduce the killing and the danger in the Donbass for the people of Ukraine who are trying to stop the advance of the Russians. But part of this involves border security in the future, the withdrawal of Russian troops, the resolution of the Donetsk and Luhansk politically. There are important questions still being discussed, but to stop Russian advancement and to stop the killing is a good thing for the moment. I hope that the conversations will continue on a positive note, and I hope ultimately the Russians will leave and Ukraine will be Ukrainian.
As you know, in addition to the financial support, we're also providing equipment, we're also providing training for members of your military. And one of the things that the United States has worked very hard on is to develop support in Europe for sanctions against Russia. And we will be continuing to work very hard on our European partners to roll over those sanctions if Russia does not comply with the Minsk II agreements. And we are working on that already. And I believe that we will continue to have support to put pressure on Russia, and we are not going to give up until Russia responds to that.
Thank you very much. And the next question. Radio Liberty, Olena Rumovska. My first question is to all senators. What is your forecast about the sanctions? The United States planned to review sanctions at the beginning of the 2016. How do you think, will it be softened, for instance, or it will be strengthened? And my second question is to Senators Shaheen and Senator Durbin. How do you continue to support the idea that the United States should provide weapons to Ukraine? And if yes, do you see any chance that White House will change its opinion on this issue? I mean the defensive weapon, javelins, for instance. Thank you.
Well, again, on the sanctions, as I said, we are already working hard with our European partners to make sure there is a commitment to roll over those sanctions when they expire at the end of the year, and to look at how we can make them as effective as possible. On the issue of weapons, I have been among those in the Congress who have supported defensive weapons to go to the Ukrainians. As you know, there has been a disagreement in Congress and among the administration about that, and I don't think that will, in the short term, get resolved in any way that's different.
Thank you very much. Yes, there one more further question, and this would be the last question.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Ukraine.
sorry, my English not so good, and I ask in Russia.
Esteemed guests, our friends, I would like to welcome you in Ukraine, and I would like to ask, first of all, the question to Senator Durbin, because we saw first time each other on the 15th of March. There was an official meeting in the Parliament of Ukraine. Then there was informal meeting in one of the premises in one of the buildings of Kyiv. Since then, it was 15th of March 2014. Since then, the Turchinov, we had the acting president Turchinov, now we have the president Poroshenko. The new people came, people who were not related to what was happening in Maidan. Little is connected to such names as Vitaly Klitschko and Yatsenyuk. They are part of political elite, but actions of those who were in Maidan and those who today are in power, their actions develop in parallel. And I see the reason that is why we don't have a mechanism that common people who gave their lives, those who survived, so that they receive support from the U.S., financial including, so that there is some organization, some, not just a grant program, but some targeted work that we could transparently control, so that the civil society could implement their programs. And so that these are people who give their lives, who are professionals and specialists, are executing these plans, but not like adventurers who came on the wave of revolution, and they have nothing to do with all the victims that were here.
Experience was a painful one for the people of Ukraine. Many innocent people died. But the spirit of Maidan lives on in dedication to reform, dedication to honesty, and I can see it, I can still feel it. As to each of the elected officials and whether they are operating in the spirit of Maidan, that is what elections are for. The people of Ukraine have the last word. They will have the elections, the local and municipal elections and others in a short time, and in the future, there will be elections relative to Parliament as currently scheduled. And we believe that is the opportunity for the people of Ukraine to make the assessment and make a judgment on each and every one of the people who serves them in public life.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you very much, dear Senators. This was the last question. We're really happy to see you here in Ukraine, and many people believe that reforms will take place, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you very much. Дякую. Наш наступний прес-брифінг, точніше.
Our next press briefing or round table will start in a minute.
Одну хвилину.